There was no wood, nothing. And I was just like, Mark, God told me that we're opening for Super Bowl. He was like, oh, okay. And he said, did you hear that, guys? God told her that we're opening for Super Bowl. And I remember one of the guys said, oh, she must be waiting on a miracle. And I said, oh, you must not know who I serve.
Welcome to the Journey Podcast. I am your host, Josh Valentine, and today I am super excited, not only because it is my birthday, but because I have a Tampa Bay legend with me, the one and only Miss KP, and we are here at her lounge. It is Lit Cigar and Martini Lounge in downtown Tampa. If you are ever in the Tampa Bay area, you absolutely have to come here. It's one of my favorite places to come visit. And I'm really excited to be here with you, KP. There's just so much that we can go into. And I'm really excited for the world to just hear your iconic story. You have so many different chapters of your journey. And I had the privilege of obviously sitting down with you and just getting a little familiar with your story. And I'm super, super excited. I would not have done this podcast on my birthday with just anyone. So with that being said, yes. With that being said, I want to let's just go way back and give the people a little bit about your upbringing. I know you mentioned to me that you're Cape Verdean, and I love that. A lot of people don't even know what that is, right? Where is this country and what's the culture and all of that stuff? But if you can take us back to your childhood, your Cape Verdean upbringing and all of that, that would be amazing.
Right. Well, what's up, everybody? I'm KP. I am the co-owner of Lit Cigar Martini Lounge. So thank you guys for coming. Libra gang, because my birthday is 9/27, y'all.
Love it.
We're the best of the best.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm Cape Verdean. I was born in Rhode Island. Literally, Cape Verde is 9 islands that are habited, but there's one island that's not.
Wow.
I would not recommend going there to your country I'm from Jabrab and my other side of my family is from Brava.
Wow.
So unless you plan on going there for an entire 30 days, because the plane only comes one time, you just might want to stay in South. But Cape Verde is where they used to actually trade slaves back in the day.
Wow.
The ships couldn't get around the islands and get to Africa, and the African kings didn't want to, sell their people. So we actually became the island where they traded slaves.
Yeah.
So our features are more of like European features.
Got it. Makes sense.
So that's why it's really difficult for some people to believe that I am 100% African black. Like I'm black. They'll be like, you're mixed with black and what? I'm like, black and black.
Yeah.
That's about it. But yeah, so I'm African. I'm second generation born in America. So we're not too far removed from, our ancestry. I'm extremely proud to be Cape Verdean. I shout it from the rooftops.
It's amazing.
Because it is different and it just adds more character to who I am, my story and everything like that. So I grew up there and then I moved to Florida when I was 8.
Nice.
6 months after I moved here though, thank you, Jesus, because I actually got sick.
Wow.
And I got a really bad stomach flu. And I have hereditary spherocytosis, so it's not like sickle cell where the cells turn into an S. It's more deals with your blood cells.
Yeah.
So they turn over, like your red blood cells turn over faster than normal. So my spleen, which is to fight infection, actually began working with the virus and killing me. So within 4 days after I got sick, my body stopped making blood completely.
Wow. How old were you around this time?
I was about to be 9.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my parents, I remember them rushing me into the hospital and my mom was crying and my dad was just holding me lifeless. And they were like, this couldn't be this soon, like this, wanting to call CPS, they always want to call the people, y'all. But so then it just basically came out that, if they would have waited until tomorrow, I would have died that next day.
Wow.
Because my organs began to start not functioning properly. Got a lot of blood transfusions. Never went back to 4th grade. Don't know how I passed, but maybe they gave me a little sympathy card, you know?
Little Grace.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
grace there. But yeah, and now I'm alive. My mom has the spirocytosis, my son does, but it skipped generations.
Wow.
But my son literally is like never gets sick. It's so crazy. And he still has it. So yeah, it was quite interesting our first 6 months here in Florida.
Wow.
But I feel like if I didn't move here and my parents didn't take that leap, then really, I don't know if I would be alive today.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, when you originally got sick, was it something that you recovered right away, or did it take a few years to finally get back to like your normal self?
Yeah, so I was okay kind of at first, but I did have to take like penicillin to boost up my immune system until I was 15. Now I'm like allergic to penicillin. But now I'm like, I'm more holistic.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've had COVID 3 times and swine flu. Now, will I catch everything? Yeah, I'm gonna catch everything. I've had Norwalk virus. I've had it all.
Yeah.
But I do typically go vegan and fast. I'll do like a Daniel fast, and then
Got
I
it.
will wait 30 days until I'm
Got it.
good.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you don't need all the medicine.
Yeah. For sure. No, I love the saying that when it comes to your body, we're like walking pharmacies. We have everything that we need to heal ourselves. And it's
Right.
a big part of my work as a holistic life coach as well, to just always remind people like, hey, we do have the ability to heal ourselves. It doesn't always require medicine.
Right.
So in terms of like Rhode Island versus Florida, was that like a culture shock for you? It's very far apart, right?
Yeah.
At two different cultures completely. And what was that transition like for you?
I mean, when I moved here, we moved to Cape Coral. So Cape Coral is not like Tampa.
Got
Like
it.
Tampa is extremely diverse.
Yeah.
Cape Coral is not.
Mm.
So needless to say, we almost went back to Rhode Island.
Wow.
It was very like racially separated. So we experienced a lot of racism that we never saw in Rhode Island.
Got it.
With like being called the N, and like kind of essentially being kind of chased out of the city,
Yeah.
you know. But it was not a place that my mom wanted to be, and we were there for only 2 weeks. And I mean, we struggled. We came here with a Hyundai, $400, and a 13-inch TV
Crazy.
that said volume across it. Because
Wow.
we couldn't find a remote control.
Wow.
So we just had to look at the TV like that. Sold everything. So like my parents took a huge leap of faith
Yeah.
coming here, because I look at my family now and it's like I love them, but it's two totally different worlds. Like when I go back home, it's like bougie or this, and it's like, am I really though?
Yeah.
Or do I just have a different lifestyle
Have
and
high
have
standards.
experienced life differently than you have,
Absolutely.
you know? So
Absolutely.
you kind of fight back and forth with that. It's like, we're supposed to level up. We're supposed to be successful. We're supposed to leave a legacy for our children,
Most
because that's what
definitely.
the word says.
Yeah.
Then why do I get faulted for grinding so hard?
Of course.
You know, I'm too masculine of a woman, or I'm too boss, or, you know, men can't handle my attitude or anything. And it's like, at what point did we get to where I had to completely subject myself to essentially another form of oppression?
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because that is what we deal with now as women, especially strong, cultured women.
Of course.
It's just a different type of background. It's a different type of growing up. Like we are serving our men and our children before we serve ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't typically happen like that in Americanized homes.
Of course. Of
So
course.
it's like between making sure that I'm feminine enough and making sure that I handle my business.
Yeah.
I work in a male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
I'm literally like the only female that stands 10 toes down on my respect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So do I get pushback? Absolutely. But am I going to conform? No.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm curious to hear a little bit about and unravel parts of your life, different layers that have led to you being this way, because I'm sure there were a series of events that led to just this way of being, whether it be survival at a certain season of your life,
Yeah.
or maybe feeling like you've been oppressed to a certain degree or whatever, just not accepted. But when it came to, I know you're a mom, right? And you have a very interesting story about just parenthood and even going off to pursue higher education
Right.
and going the college route.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because you have a really interesting part of the story where you mentioned to me in our pre-interview the whole aspect of you being accepted to West Point, for example.
Yeah.
And I could relate to that. I went to a military college myself, but you chose another route.
Yeah.
And if you could explain why, that would be amazing.
Okay, so I got accepted on a full ride to West Point. My dad is a Marine. He's like a marksman. So he's like,
Mhm.
oh my God, my daughter, you would have swore I was a son.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, my daughter's going to West Point. I'm like, hold on, Slim. KP ain't going to West Point. There's a whole war about to happen.
Yeah.
So literally it was the war. I remember being in school, in high school, in the auditorium and in my trade class and seeing the towers come down.
Wow.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, if I go to West Point, they're going to send me to war.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get pregnant. So I'm just going to find a different school.
For sure.
So definitely went to University of Tampa where I got a scholarship. Absolutely freaking hated it.
Mm.
It was just not culturally accepting.
Mm.
I say the least. I mean, I had students telling me, like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, darling, there's only 200 scholarships that get tossed out of this school.
For
So I happen to be one of them and I don't play a sport. So the question is, what are you doing?
Mm.
You know?
Got it.
So, but I didn't really enjoy it. And I left there, went to USF. And then I met my ex who's my son's dad.
Mm.
And here I am, 20 years old, a junior, and I'm pregnant.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life now?
Wow.
I was just so determined to finish because I was going to be the first woman and female in my family to do it, that I knew that I was not allowed to stop. So after having a C-section,
Wow.
I thought it would be a good idea to go back to school 7 days later. Found out real quick that was not smart. But I pushed through and I failed essentially because then I ended up getting a staph infection.
Wow.
And going
So 7 days later, right?
7 days after having
Yeah.
a C-section.
Yep. Wow.
I
That's
went back
crazy.
to school.
That's crazy.
Because I just knew that if I stopped, then I was not just letting myself down.
Mm.
I was letting my parents down. You know, like for them to come here and be like the black sheep of the family, like the
course.
talked about ones. And it's like to come here and your children are graduating college. They're going to college. They're building a life for themselves that is completely different than my cousin.
Yeah.
We're not in trouble.
Mhm.
We've never been arrested. I've never even had a referral in school. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was a completely different life
Got
for
it.
us.
Yeah.
So we were just the four of us. We did it by ourselves.
Mm.
We don't have family here. So it is really just me and my mom, my sister, my dad. But I was just determined, like, I can't stop.
Wow. Yeah, I love this part of the story because oftentimes I have a coaching practice that's predominantly women, and one of the things that come up is just a lot of the policies that these companies have on maternity leave, and as you know, it's difficult for moms to just separate from their child, let alone 7 days.
Yeah.
And
And he was in NICU.
yeah,
Still.
what was that like for you? Like, did you feel a sense of guilt that you were leaving your child, or was it just this pure determination, like, I'm gonna get this shit done and I'm gonna do whatever I have to do for the well-being of my child?
I think because I was so young and I was 20 years old, I was just so on go mode. Like
Mm.
I was working at Hooters, I was bartending. So my life was just on go.
Mm.
So for me, naturally, I just processed it as, okay, we still got to keep going,
Got
you
it.
know?
Yeah.
I don't think it really hit me
Mm.
that I was a mom until later on.
Yeah.
Definitely with my daughter, completely different experience.
Yeah.
I felt every emotion of being a mom.
Mm.
Where I think because I was younger, I kind of just like grew with
Of
my son,
course,
you know?
of course.
And then I just grinded it out and I went to summer school. I made up those courses and those credits and I graduated with a 3.3.
That's amazing.
So,
Now, I know you had mentioned to me criminology was your
Right.
choice of,
Yeah.
the field that you pursued. Why criminology out of all things?
Well, one, I'm a Libra, and we're the scales. We're the only one that's not an animal.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm very fair. I'm such a fair person. Like, even if it's not going to benefit me, I'm like, okay, yeah, you were right. Like, that's not real fair. But honestly, I love law.
Mm,
And I love just being like, no, that's not correct. Like, actually, this is how it should
yes.
be. But then I worked at a law firm, and I was like, oh, hell no.
Mhm.
I am not doing this. This is the most boring job. And then they were like, oh no, you stay broke for 6 years. You got to pay your student loans. You can't work. I was like, oh no. And here I am, like, young, I'm getting money. I'm thinking
Yeah.
I'm working Hooters. I'm making 600 a day. I'm
That's
like,
right.
what? I'm rich. I can't stop working. No. But literally, I was like, I can't. I don't. I just saw myself like kind of not being as involved with
Of
my
course.
son. And I was like, I think I'm going to have to sacrifice this.
Got it. Got it.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world, though.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's so interesting how things come back full circle because here you are as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure there's that legal background that every now and then it comes back full circle, right? Even though you may not have pursued that specific profession, certain things just come back full circle. And that's the interesting thing about just divine intervention, and you end up in certain
Right.
places for a reason, and you can't really see why things happen the way they do until you look back years later. But you mentioned Hooters, and I know you have a really interesting story when it came to Hooters. And tell the people a little bit about that, right? Like, what was that journey like for you? And I know that you've progressed and you reached some of the highest levels
Yeah.
with the corporation. And how did that end up leading to sort of like the work that you do today?
So, like, hospitality was something I was never really in, but I just kept having this feeling.
Mhm.
When Channelside opened, I had applied at Splitsville for their event coordinator. They immediately called me. And I was like, 7 days later, I just kept telling my mom, like, I just feel like Hooters is going to call. I feel like they're going to call me. I don't want to take this job. And they called.
Wow.
And Hooters undeniably allowed me to start from the bottom, get all the way to the top, and I was able to watch the process of brand longevity.
That's amazing.
Like, and learn the marketing, how you can really take on a lot of these tactics on your own, and they are extremely successful. So I started as a server, worked my way all the way up to like a trainer. Then I worked my way up to training management. Then I launched their liquor. Then I opened stores for them.
Wow.
Yeah. Then I sat on a board in a committee, and I sat there for 6 years, and we changed. I like to say, are part of the reason why Hooters uniforms are what they are today, because we got away from like that old 1983
Yeah.
dolphin short
Yeah.
t-shirt thing. We changed the menu around. We changed the music at nighttime. We just kind of modernized it,
That's incredible.
and we kind of had to really go pitch ourselves to the owners and be like, listen, like, this isn't 1983 anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't even born in
Yeah.
1983,
Yeah. Yeah.
y'all. Like, we need to fix this. So
Definitely.
we literally like went there, we launched it all. I did with a girl, Nicole, by herself. We literally door knock on businesses. Hey, can we please do our catering with you? We just want to try it out. Can you tell us what you think?
Wow.
And then we launched Hooters Catering. So I am responsible for their catering, and
That's
so is
amazing.
Nicole
That's amazing.
and Miss Peggy.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
yeah, so we did that. And then I was like, okay, this is about as high as I can go here. So now what? Because like these people are grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So I literally just took everything I learned from them. Absolutely amazing, amazing company. You will learn so much about leadership and just, I really wish they would do a like Hooters Girl, Where Are You Now type of thing,
Yeah.
reality
Yeah.
show, because I'm sure a lot of us are a lot of places.
For sure.
But they really were instrumental in understanding hospitality, understanding brand management, understanding longevity, understanding how to protect your brand.
Yeah.
And I learned all of that from them.
Wow.
And then when I started bartending at the old lit, it was like 800 feet.
Oh,
It was
wow.
literally like the Cheers of Tampa.
Wow. Wow. I love this part.
Yeah.
So you finished Hooters, and then you transitioned out of Hooters.
Mhm.
What did that look like? Did you just say, screw this, I'm out, there's no more growth here, I plateaued? What did that look like, and what ultimately led to your next endeavor?
It looked like I was pregnant again with my daughter, and I was
Wow.
like, "I do not think that I can do this anymore." Like, I've had 2 pregnancies being a Hooter girl, and, like, I know people are like, "Oh, she's a Hooter girl." You make the most money you ever make when you at Hooters when you're pregnant. So, girls, I highly recommend that you don't go out and just get
Yeah.
pregnant, but
If you do.
if you do,
Yeah.
that is a really good job because the women, they love it. They give you, "Oh my god, congratulations. Here's money for a stroller. Here's money for a
Wow.
car seat."
Wow.
It was one people were really, and I think people have a misconception of Hooters because it really is way more family.
Yeah.
I never got disrespected,
That's
never
beautiful.
felt anything, and they don't
That's
tolerate that
beautiful.
anyway,
Yeah.
so
Shout out to Hooters, by the
yeah,
way.
Hooters.
Yeah. Maybe we can get the owner on the podcast.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I know where they are. I know where their
yeah.
offices are. But yeah, so it's amazing. John Graydon used to work at Hooters in the kitchen. A lot of people actually started
Wow.
at Hooters.
Yeah.
Then I worked there and I was just like, I don't want to work anymore.
Mm,
Being pregnant, I think I'm good here. Like I've
yeah,
done everything. There's nowhere else.
for sure.
So went next door to the Lit. My best friend, who's my partner in this, he was like, "Please, can you come and help?" And da I walked in that thing and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like a man cave. I cannot do this. What did I do to myself?" He was like the same 2 freaking guys that come here every single
Uh,
day. And I'm like, ah. So I told him, I was like, "Listen, why don't we do hookah? Hookah was just coming out." I'm like, "Why don't we do hookah?" "I don't want to do hookah. I'm not making nothing." Like, "No, I'll take care of it. But we need to have girls in here. Like,
yeah,
something's got to
yeah,
give."
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Then the girls started coming. Then the athletes started coming.
Mm,
Then we started doing pool parties.
yeah.
And we would partner with
Wow.
Marriott and A-Lot. And we would have all these celebrity athletes flying in. It was crazy. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
amazing.
who are we?
Yeah, yeah.
And then that kind of led to growth.
Wow. I love it because you've always brought this sense of innovation to
Yeah.
wherever you ended up. And you always had this eye for what's trending and what will be a big
Right.
hit. And that's absolutely incredible. And tell me a little bit about the transition from the old Lit going into the new Lit and what this is today.
So we actually ended up closing on December 31st, 2017. We were just not part of the concept that, the new owners were coming in and changing it to Sparkman's Wharf and things like
Got
that.
it.
So they definitely made it more restaurant style.
Mhm.
Um, so we were like, okay, well, we'll have a spot in like 6 months, we'll chill. About month 3, and we didn't have enough chilling money.
Mm,
So we had to figure out something. And I'm sitting there like, okay, you said we were gonna like have a build out already.
yeah,
Like, what's going on? Like,
yeah,
I have a 2-year-old now at this point. I have a 12-year-old now at that point. I'm like not getting any support. So I'm like, I can't. I only have $1,286 left in my bank account. What am I supposed to do? And I had battled like postpartum depression by myself.
wow,
So from my daughter being born with her father and that stress, she was born preemie. She stopped growing 4 pounds. Like it was not good. Came out not breathing. And it was a lot of stress. And I ended up developing postpartum. Something that I did not get with my first one. One, because his father was present. And two, I think too, I was young. I was just on go mode.
of
Like
course,
now
yeah,
this is just another
yep,
piece of my life,
of course,
Where this time it was really like I was older. I was not 21, I was 31. And I'm like, wow, like I really am like not feeling connected.
yeah,
Like love her, but I don't want to be here no more.
yeah,
Like this is too hard.
mm,
So I battled that for 2.5 years, like suicidal thoughts, like and in cultured families, like it's typically that like, oh well, you know what it is, you know what was gonna happen.
of
So
course,
it's like that unspoken thing. You just don't talk about things that you kind of like put yourself into,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, most definitely,
So it was really hard.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
hard.
What would you say, like, was really the thing that led to the most I guess, depression, if you will, whether it be the relationship that you were in, or maybe operating out of survival, or just feeling a little bit overwhelmed. One of the things that I typically mention in my work as a coach is us men could never fathom or conceptualize the emotional range of a woman and what you go through. We can't really process that because you're just wired different.
Yeah.
And what would you say led to the most just darkness in your life in that specific season?
I think it was the lack of support
Mhm.
from like her father and just also like my family. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, this is just another part of your life. You got to figure it out.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
was like in that moment, I had never experienced it.
Mhm.
So I don't even know how to cope with it.
Yeah.
I just remember like putting her on the bed and she was crying and I just sat down on the floor and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't care what happens. I just don't want to see tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, get up. And I just got up and I no longer, I don't know, something clicked in me. Like, I no longer engaged in the toxicity with her dad, like the arguing, the narcissistic behavior, the gaslighting. Like, I just stopped.
Mm.
And I think I allowed that to get in my mind and control my mind
Yeah.
because I was feeling like the threats of, oh, I'm going to take her, I'm going to do this. And it was like, you're in protective mode for your kid. You're
Of
trying to
course.
figure out life. Now I'm trying to maneuver two children.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even know what I'm doing right here.
Mm.
But shout out to my son's dad because he literally, since she was 3 weeks old, has been helping me with her. And that's Uncle
That's
D. And then
beautiful.
his wife.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Like I like to call us blended and blessed.
That's
But
incredible.
yeah, so they really helped me. But getting to that point took a lot. And it really took a revelation that I had. Like, I remember waking up on February 18th in 2018 and being like, oh my God, like, I have to do something. And I remember driving my son to his dad's house the week prior, and he's like, oh, go the back way, Mom. And I'm like, back way? First of all, you're like 12. You don't know how to drive, so don't tell me what to do. But I'm like, wait, what back way is he kind of talking about? Like, so I go the back way, and I literally hear, like, my grandfather was my spiritual, like, influence
Mm.
during that time. So he was really the only one that knew what I was going through.
Got it.
And then he passed away from cancer. So I felt like extremely disconnected.
Mm.
And I went and I drove by and I hear that's the church. And I'm like, "Mm." So then I go that week, fast forward to February 18th. It's the first time in years I woke up at 6:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Random. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to church too. When I tell you I was pacing in there, you would have thought I was a hooker in church. Like, it was going to set on fire. I was like, I don't know about this. I kept trying to talk myself out of it. But literally, I got up the courage to go to church. And I walked in, getting ready to walk in. And there were these shoes that I had. And I've had them for years.
Mm.
I'm talking about I was in the club twerking. I was on couches. I was pouring up models in these shoes. But the day I want to go to church and praise the Lord, the shoes don't work. So I literally was walking in and it was like a shoe that covered like the toe part, but
Yeah.
tied up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my shoe break. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh my God, I'm going to
Wow.
go back home. I only live 6 minutes away. I'm going to go home. And I hear no. And I'm like, dang, if I go home, I ain't coming.
Mm.
Took me like hours to get here. It took me 3 hours to muster up the courage. It's
Yeah.
9:45 service.
Mhm.
I done already missed 7:45.
Yeah.
So I finesse my shoe basically and tie it right here. I go into the last row of Love First Christian Center. I don't know a praise and worship song to save my life. I'm just in here like, God, I don't know what I'm doing here. These people are going to look at me. They're going to judge me. Like, maybe I didn't wear the right clothes. Like, you feel like that because you feel like you have to be the perfect Christian. And
Yeah.
it's like, now that I know what I know,
Of course.
no,
Of
he ain't
course.
looking for that.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there rocking back and forth. and this shoe breaks. I'm like, bro, I done been in the night. I done
Wow.
twerk. I done seen Cardi B in these shoes. What's going on? And my shoe breaks again, and I finesse it. But moral of the story, I left there literally in tears, barefoot, walking out. And I've been there ever since. That church saved my life because it gave me hope
Of course.
that my situation is not the worst.
Absolutely.
Somebody has it worse. Somebody went the extra mile and did that.
Very true.
So I need to mentally be a better person for my kids. I was mean at the time to my family. Like, I just had a lot of things going on that I had never experienced.
Yeah.
So then I literally am like, okay, I go back the next Sunday. Now, keep in mind, I ain't got no job.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I said I only got $1,286 in my bank account. Ain't much you can do with
Yeah.
$1,200 and 86. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna tithe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm hearing about tithing.
Mhm.
Like, I don't even know what this is, but it looks right.
Yeah.
So I start researching. I'm giving $5 when I start because I ain't got no money.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start giving 10. Then by the end of that first month there, I was giving like $25, $30.
Yep.
Second month, oh, I thought I was a boss, baby. You can tell me nothing. I was dropping 50. Nah.
Nice.
You know, like, God, they say you gonna make a way. If anybody gonna do it, you gonna do it.
love
I'm
it.
trusting you.
I love it.
So I was just giving like as if it was I could go pick it off a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And literally 60 days, April 16, 2018, I got a job at Ideal Image making 6 figures. I had never made 6 figures.
Wow. Wow.
$130,000.
That's incredible.
It was the hardest place to work to get
Yeah.
a job in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I applied and I actually didn't get fit. I wasn't selected first.
Mm-hmm.
There was only 2 selected. Both had already worked there.
Got it.
So they were just bringing them back in. Her dad gets sick and she has to move. They call me.
Wow.
And
Crazy.
I told them after my 2-week training, I'm going to be the best salesperson you've ever seen in your life. I had never done phone sales.
Wow.
I hadn't even talked to one person yet.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, oh, I'm going to be the best. You ain't going to be able to tell me nothing. And I'm like, oh, what did I just say? But
I love it.
I remember that day I got on the floor. I emailed 10,000
Mm.
and I put it in writing. And I was putting it on my board, on my cubicle, everything. I would print it. I sent it to my mom. She's like, what is that? I said, that's how much money I want to make a month.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, you haven't even started. I know, but I'm going to make that much a month.
You were determined.
And I was the number one person all the time to where I got promoted to actually teach sales strategy,
Wow.
flying around teaching. You know, I've launched their virtual consultations. So again, the
I love it.
creativity
I
and the
love it.
innovation. So they did that during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped create diversity and inclusion there. I got the mental health days.
That's incredible.
And honestly, it was a good experience. It was quite different in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
But even there, I learned sales.
Yeah.
I learned
Yeah.
strategy. I learned how to maneuver. If something doesn't work, you just,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I got to tweak this. I got to do this.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's got to
absolutely,
work.
absolutely. So I have to go a little bit deeper into the idea of tithing. This is a beautiful story, by the way, and I'm a huge proponent for tithing specifically. I always mention to people, like, even if you take the spirituality out of it, right, from a psychological standpoint, the process of tithing, what it does is it removes you of this scarcity mentality. There's not enough to
Right.
go around. And when you tithe, you're telling your brain that you are abundant, that there
Right.
is enough. And just that process alone is really enough to, I feel like, attract a lot more abundance because you're putting your mindset in a state of abundance as opposed to a state of scarcity.
Right.
But from a spiritual standpoint, of course, God is just going to come through all the time. So
Right.
I always recommend, for those of you who are struggling financially and you haven't tithe, just give it a try for a season. See how it works for you. You'll never know until you actually go a season with tithing. So that's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah.
And I have to also go a little bit into just this way that you think, because you've always gone into environments and have elevated them.
Yeah.
And you also have gone into these environments with a great belief in yourself.
Mhm.
Why are you like that? Or do you feel like you were just born like that? Is that your personality, or perhaps you just grew into this person? Where did that come from?
I think it comes from like just kind of like watching my parents when we moved here, like really not give up
Mm,
and seeing the tenacity. And like, it's one thing to have to take risk on your own.
yeah.
It's another when you have small children and you don't even know a single person
Yeah.
and you don't have no money and you don't have no job. So it's like, if they can do that, then I have to be able to accomplish a lot more than this.
Mm,
Like, and I owe it to them. What did you sacrifice all that for?
that's right.
If I'm just gonna be like everybody else,
Yeah.
you know? And for me to touch back on the tithing, like God loves a generous giver.
Yes.
And tithing is saying, not only am I a giver because I know it's gonna come back, maybe not monetarily, maybe I added an extra day of life. I don't
Mm,
know, you know? But at the end of the day, it's ultimately saying, do you trust God?
exactly.
Do
Exactly.
you trust God? Because we cannot sit here and say, this is mine. It's not mine because I'm not the provider.
Mm,
He gave it to me and he gave it to me to give. So if he's going to give you the abundance, he wants to see if you're going to give.
of
Because if
course.
he could give you that, imagine what else you can get.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? But I think
Definitely.
people get in this thing where they're so honed in and focused on, well, the preacher this and the pastor and the church this, the church got money. Why the pastor got to drive a Rolls Royce? Well, tell me the scripture that says he's supposed to be broke. Because it definitely says if you do his
Love it.
work, you're going to get blessed and abundant. Speak his word. He's going to make sure that everything you ask for, you receive. All the desires of your heart, he will
Yeah.
fulfill.
Yeah.
But if you don't even trust him, if you think that man gave you that job,
Yeah. So true. So
okay,
true.
then
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So you have this part of your journey that I love I can't say immigrant, right? But second generation is pretty close.
yes.
And I resonate with that because my family migrated from Puerto Rico. And I always had that mentality like, I'm going to be the first in my generation to build wealth and break the cycle. And you have that. Then you also have the dynamic of you being a mom,
Right.
and you have your law background, and then the branding expertise that you developed with Hooters. And then now you have the sales background and you have the first lit that came around. How did everything come back full circle where this phenomenal place came to be, the beautiful aesthetic, the vibe, everything like that? And it's hard being in this business.
Mm.
So for you to even still be, I remember when I first came to Tampa, this was one of the first places that I came to visit, and you guys are still here rocking. There's a really amazing story, even just how this came to be. And I would love to go into that. But how did everything come full circle for you to actually get this off the ground?
So it took a very long time. And I think while I was at Ideal, like, yes, I was making money, but it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Mm,
And that same day that I went on the floor and told them I was going to be the best,
yeah.
I literally told Kathy Ramos, she's into church too. I literally told her that. I said, but I'm only going to be here for 2 years. That's it.
Mhm, mm,
I ended up quitting June 2020. So again, May 2018, I got on the floor. June
yeah.
2020, I ended up quitting. Um, because I knew that I needed that during that time.
Yep.
And it was really the time and the people that, were at Ideal Image. Like one of my best friends came out of there. She was very spiritually inclined and connected. So she kind of like talked to me a lot and became like my prayer sister. So I really feel like as much as I wanted it to open like 6 months later, and then we're getting told this date and we're getting told this date, and you're like, all right, like,
Yeah.
bro, we on year 2.
Hmm.
We still in the dirt. We don't even have a booth. We don't have anything. We have
Yeah.
nothing is broken ground. We had literally, I think it took us 2 years to even get the
Wow.
location.
So you just had the vision.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just had a vision.
Yeah.
Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it
Yeah.
plain. I don't think we could have made it any more plain. That thing was
Mm,
about to go to Braille, okay? I was about to be like, maybe you don't see what I'm talking about. Let me put it in Braille. But literally, I was like, when you look back full circle and when you start to develop spiritually,
mhm.
you see that that was my moment of growing my spirituality. I would not have been able to grow in my spirituality if I had jumped immediately into this.
That's right.
Not to mention, we wanted everything on our timing and our timing. We want this. And my partner was like so angry and depressed. And we were not on the same page at all. We were not equally yoked. I was like, at church, they talk about this thing called like equally yoked. And I know we're not married. Like maybe this has something to do with like business too. Maybe we could apply it.
Yeah.
So I started getting him to write down his prayers.
Nice.
And he wasn't very faith-based, but I started getting him to like open up a little bit. Because I was writing my prayers and I'm like, yo, this stuff is working. Like I read my expectations, boom. Everything on the checklist is getting done. So literally it was, I think that season that we needed to understand how powerful God was.
Got it.
And how he would move, but God only moves on his time.
Mm-hmm.
So we had began to like get yoked and start seeing like everything start to go, full circle. And I remember it was 11 days before Super Bowl week in Tampa. Tom Brady made history. We're in the Super Bowl, home field advantage.
Yes.
COVID about to be done. Everybody's outside.
The city was booming too.
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's moving to Florida.
Yep.
Our governor's like wide open for everybody. We getting sick as I don't know what time, but still. And I walk up to him, and when I tell you there was nothing in here, this was still dirt. There was like, these were elevated right here, but there wasn't no beams. There was no wood.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I was just like, Mark, God told me that we're opening for Super Bowl. He was like, oh, okay. And he said, did you hear that, guys? God told her that we're opening for Super Bowl. And I remember one of the guys said, oh, she must be waiting on a miracle. And I said, oh, you must not know who I serve. He's a God of miracles. Well,
I love it.
Needless to say, these were not all elevated. We didn't have all the trinkets that we have, but we opened that Friday at 10:58. We were screwing in the light bulbs. When I tell you, Tico, everybody was in position. The Super Bowl is coming to Tampa. Everybody's locked in, loaded, got their post, got everything 2 weeks prior. So you're not moving, no city officials, nothing. Everybody's locked in. And we made a call, and Tico came the next day.
Wow.
2 days before we opened, they're underground trying to fix the electricity. We had no electricity 2 days prior.
Crazy.
Then we had no liquor license activated yet. We had one, but it wasn't activated.
Yeah.
My partner drives that Friday morning at 8 in the morning when they open, hands it to her. And literally at 4:56, he's up there waiting. And she hands it to him, the paperwork.
Wow.
And we go and we put our orders in. 10 o'clock at night, they're pushing our liquor in through the back. We're doing the light bulbs. At 11 o'clock, we open the gate. And this thing looked like the entire NFL was in this thing. We had people from the 49ers spending $15K. I had the Seahawks spending $12K. We're doing $100,000 in a few hours. We were like, yo,
Crazy.
What is going on? But ever since then, we've been lit. And it's like, if we wanted it on our time, we would have been shut down for COVID. We would not have had the opportunity. Like, what better way to shut everybody down that was like, oh, that place is never going to open. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because we just busted wide open on y'all.
I love it. And a lot of it you can attribute to just getting that download, if you will, from God, right? Like through prayer. And my church always refers to it as like abiding, right? Abiding in the Lord. Like the same God that spoke to those in scripture is the same God that you can very well have a connection with, right? People don't realize the power in that.
And you legit hearing.
That's right.
You'd be like, hold on, because I'm deaf on this side, y'all.
Yeah.
But this side worked real good. He talk on this side.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, you said what? Okay.
I love it. For me, it's interesting. It's more like a feeling.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, like it's just coming down, and I can feel it.
It's like you feel like your chest is like a little tight at sometimes, but you're like,
Yeah,
You
it's
can really
interesting.
feel it.
Yeah, yeah, but that's incredible,
You get
and
chills.
oh yeah, the chills are a big one when it
Mhm.
just yeah, so that's beautiful though, the
Yeah,
fact that you trusted in that and you had that intuition and it ended up working out in your favor and you trusted the timing.
yeah.
So, now I wanna ask you, if you could have done it all over again, what would you have done differently? Because you went through very difficult seasons, and perhaps you could give your 20-year-old self some advice as you are today with all of your infinite wisdom, right? And all of your expertise. What advice would you have given yourself at 20 years old just to be able to sort of take up your cross and with a little bit more grace, a little bit more dignity.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't have to be as hard as it was.
I would probably say slow down
Mm,
because you rush through life when you're young. You don't really take a second to like, I know when old people are like, you gotta smell the roses. And it's like, I'm not trying to smell the roses. I'm trying to skirt, you know? But I probably would tell myself to slow down. And it's okay to like I told moms now, young moms, it's okay to let the baby cry. You never seen a baby cry die from crying too much. It's okay to walk away. It's okay. But if I could do it, I would probably say slow down.
mm,
I've never been like a quitter.
mm-hmm,
So I'm always gonna push it through to see at least where it got me.
for sure.
But I don't know if I would have done too much differently. I think that as I'm older and I'm like mentoring or I'm just talking to people or, like girls will call me, younger girls or guys even, like I'm still in child support. I have no idea why I'm here 7.5 years later. Like, I'm like, bro, I could have got married 3 times and gotten divorced. Like,
For sure.
what are we splitting? What are we doing? Like, but then I always used to say, why am I so here? I used to get so mad. Until now I'm like, almost every month there's someone asking me questions about child support that I'm calming them down or making them see a different perspective or saying, hey, you might want to move like this. It's always like, now I look at everything like, dang, I learned so much. Like,
Yeah.
what did I take from that? What did I take from that? And it's like, I don't know if I would change too much because then I don't think I would have the tenacity and the heart.
Of course.
And I think I needed to go through that to
Yeah.
get spiritually connected because I'm not a Bible thumping like, oh my God, you're not the perfect Christian because maybe I am not perfect.
Mhm.
I'm the one of the ones he talking about fall short every day. That'd be me. But I know when I speak of God and I glorify him and the character that people see in me, they know that God is because
sure.
you've watched the elevation.
Mhm.
You've watched what's happened in my life. A lot of people. And I think too, it's like that narrative that, you're a single Black mom and like, you don't have to be the narrative. You can change it.
Yeah.
Because we can't always say like it's my environment because my parents were not rich. They did not have money. I slept on a cot
Yeah.
with my sister that folded. One sleep one way, one sleep another. We slept like that for till I was like 12,
Mm,
So like we didn't have either. It's just about not having and how much you're going to go fight for what you.
for sure.
And I think my parents have always taught me that.
Mm,
Just fight for what you want. And now you look at things and you're like, I needed to go through that.
of course. Of
I
course.
needed to see this. I needed to understand how to still be a good mother,
Yeah.
even though I'm battling work or I'm battling, friendships that are turning because when you're going places, it gets lonely.
Right.
And you're not always going to be everybody's favorite.
So true.
And it's like, what did I do? But you're mad because of the purpose God had for me.
Mm.
Well, what did you think was going to happen when I dedicated my life and started to give?
Of course.
So I feel like the platform, people will be like, oh my God, but you own a club. Like, that's like the devil's church. But I'm where the rebels are. I'm where the people that need the most help are. If I wasn't on the platform, when they listen to me, would they follow me on Instagram and read my scriptures every day? Would they be looking for them?
So true.
If I don't post, they're like, hey, Pierre, are you okay?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
dang,
Yeah.
you could get the book, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but they look for it. They need it.
Of
So you
course, of
become
course.
that.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, would I be here? Would I be that person they're looking to?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. I spoke to my wife about this recently as well because sometimes I get conflicted because we have our church community and sometimes you can get around some holier than thou people, and I believe that I was meant to be in the mud. Like, take me to the sinners,
It's
take
like
me to
market
the
ministry.
environments, of course. And these are the people that need it the most. And why would I just count them out and only hang around the people who probably don't need it as much
Mm,
as, and even that's up for debate, right?
right.
But I love the idea, like just being real and being authentically yourself. Like we can be here, have hookah, have drinks or whatever, and still reach the people and inspire them and educate them and uplift them, and even give some spiritual advice. And
Right.
I wanted to ask you, do you genuinely believe in the idea of balance, or do you feel like whenever you're going to pursue a dream, you have to go all in and sort of go into a season of being obsessed? What would you say like has been your style over the years in terms of becoming successful, and like have you had to deprive certain areas of your life to make other areas work?
Yeah. So I'm a diehard, like, I'm going all in. Like,
Mm.
and we are gonna just like when we first opened this, I sacrificed a lot of time with my kids. I was here 24/7, you know.
Yeah.
But once I got it to where it needed to be, I'm home all the time. Like I'm barely at the club now. So for me, it's like you should be obsessed with it because why do I want to eat? I'm not easing up on nothing.
Yeah.
It's all gas, no brakes.
That's right.
Because here's the thing. If he gave it to you and you don't move when he says move,
Mm,
he can give it to somebody else.
of course.
Then it's like, why am I going to, I always say it's like, and it's probably like conceited and I'm so sorry, God. But I'm always thinking to myself, why do I want them to catch up?
Mm,
I don't want them catching up to me.
yeah.
So as long as I stay ahead, they don't move unless I do. So
Yeah.
I go all the way, guns blazing,
Wow. Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So there are sacrifices, but
Of
you're
course.
sacrificing short term
Exactly.
for long term.
Exactly. That's so
So
true. So I know that as a serial entrepreneur, investor, you have a lot of different business interests, and real estate is one of them. And I actually had an episode with a guy who's into real estate heavy out here in the Tampa Bay market. And I wanted to just ask you briefly, what does real estate mean to you? Why real estate out of all things? And also just your vision with that as a serial entrepreneur investor. How does that tie into all of your business interests?
so real estate for me was actually something that I started when I had quit Ideal
Mm,
and I was on my chill time because I had saved up so much money.
yep.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep praying and I'm gonna be at lit every day and I'm gonna be pushing them. And I remember pulling up and I ain't see nobody here. I was like, oh baby, it's a Tuesday. As you off of work, like there must be a Taco Tuesday I don't know about. Like, where's everybody?
Of course.
So then literally was like, oh, I'm gonna get my real estate license.
Nice.
So I got my real estate license. I think I got my first deal like 19 days later.
Wow.
So that's when I realized though, I didn't like real estate.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh, I don't want to chase no cabinets. I don't want to be looking at this. I don't want to be walking through. And like I did it because, you know, my friends would need houses,
of
things like
course.
that. So it was really important for me to do it for people I knew
Mm-hmm,
so that I
mm-hmm.
could change their narrative, help them break their curses. A lot of my friends never owned a home,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of my friends' moms, dads never owned a home. So it was really important, but I only did it for people I cared about.
Of course.
And then, you know, with my ex dying, and
Wow.
it was like he used to play football for the Bucks, and it was like an eye-opening experience when I was with him to
Mm,
see like the intricacies of like how the money's moving,
got it.
you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's like, wait a minute, there's a whole lot of hands on this.
Mm,
And, you know, you're kind of sitting back like, it's no wonder why things are the way they are. You know, like I do research and I'm starting like initiatives and developing educational programs where it's literally teaching them how not to use their principal,
got it.
how you become your own bank. Because the statistics of 79.89% of them going broke by year 2 out of the league,
That's right.
they only were in the league for 3 years on
Yep,
average.
on average, yeah.
So they're broke 730 days later, but their agents aren't broke. Their financial advisors aren't
So
broke.
true.
So if they have an 80% fail rate, they can't be that great at their job.
Yeah.
So I started to ask a lot of my guy friends that play, like, well, what's your return? And they'll be like, oh, 2.5. And I'm like, okay, well, if they get 0.5% and they get 0.5%, it's really 1.5. No wonder why you're touching your principal, you know, because they're taking all their money, shooting it up into where shareholders are getting theirs first. They're literally using borrowed money to make themselves richer
Wow.
because it's not theirs.
Yeah.
And they first thing they're going to tell you, rent. Don't buy, because they need to keep more money in the pot.
Of course.
So I started a KP Legacy and Investment Group because I felt like there's got to be a way to not essentially cut out the agent and the financial advisor, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
However, to educate them on how to actually take the control of their money and make themselves their own bank. And now we're leveraging certain things and certain assets and policies for certain things where we're cutting out capital gains, we're cutting out tax, we're tax deferred, we're not paying these things, and we're gaining at 6.25%.
That's incredible.
So it's literally like making it impossible for them to touch their principal.
Yeah.
They make entirely too much money. They work so hard. 730 days you're broke? That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's like they almost can't enjoy the luxury of life because you tell them, don't buy a chain, don't buy this, don't go out, don't do this.
Yeah.
And then you'll tell them not to buy a house. But I'm like, I remember saying to one of the agents, you just canceled a deal for me on a $5 million home.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't need to do that right now. He's signing a $40 million contract. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And he says, he just can rent. And I literally said to him, well, what if we look at your portfolio? What's that going to look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's about educating them, like partnering with the moms of athletes to make sure that they're saying like, hey, this is my son. He's a receiver. He's a running back. Like, this is what we do.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for financial literacy. My wife is a wealth strategist. We're really, really big on just educating the masses on, especially in our culture, right? Like where we need it the most. And if we're truly going to break those generational cycles, it's so important to make sure that we're like educating ourselves at that as well. And we do a lot of masterminds and things like that specifically for that. So I love it. I love just your frame of thinking and again, just the idea of innovation, right? Thinking outside the box. And I know that you've brought that thinking outside the box to the community.
Right.
And I can't end this podcast without talking about some of the work that you're doing in the community. Some of you who are probably watching are maybe thinking like, oh, well, she's in the nightclub scene, and you probably don't really see too many people in the nightclub scene who are heavily involved in the community. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit about that and some of the projects that you're currently working on.
Yeah, so I was actually awarded in February for Black History Month, most influential African Americans women in Tampa.
That's amazing.
Because of philanthropy, so thank you.
I love it.
But honestly, like I do the Power Brunch. It is a brunch that I do the weekend after Mother's Day once a year.
Nice.
And I bring in business lending, business credit, trademarks, LLCs. I bring in marketing strategists for Meta. I bring in attorneys. I bring in so many variations of business. And I cap my tickets at 225. So we've been selling out every year.
Love it.
And I literally have venture capitalists looking to invest, and I put it all in one building. And I say, guys, you're never going to get all these people in one building again. Let me share my connection with you. So many people every year tell me how much they do. And one of my friends literally started a business with another guy that was sitting here. They have like an life insurance company that they're launching next week. So like when I tell you the connections that are made, people have Sick is one of the philanthropic groups that are in the city. They formed at my power brunch, lawyers that are here, personal injury lawyers that are taking on huge cases for people, or they're sponsoring little kids events. Like, I feel like I made people want to give
Mm,
because it's like, what are we doing this for?
that's right.
Because I don't operate from a spirit of greed. So I'm never losing nothing if I give.
That's right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, do I check my bank account? No, not really. But am I rich? No, I'm not, because I trusted in what? So for me to say, oh, I don't trust it now, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
When I had nothing, I trusted him.
of course.
Now when I got stuff,
Yeah.
I just have to trust even more. But I do that. I've done a lot of foster children. We cook for them for Thanksgiving. We'll cook for group
That's
homes.
beautiful.
We give out 200 entire dinners. So I don't do just like the plate of
Yeah,
food.
yeah.
Like, I want you to have leftovers,
Of course, of
because
course.
you need to experience what we experience
Yeah.
for Thanksgiving. Christmas time, I partnered with Neiman Marcus. We did $10,000 I raised it in a weekend. Basically, I had to get a whole bunch of people to come spend the first weekend at Neiman Marcus, and I literally tapped out the first day. So
Wow.
I met my goal of 10K. So I hit their highest mark, and we were able to give 130 kids 5 gifts instead of 1 like last year,
That's beautiful.
And
Yeah.
it's literally like, I can call on the community and I will post. And for my church, they were like, oh, we need cereal boxes. And here I am, I got my garage. I put a post, and I'm talking truckloads. My homeboys are pulling up with flatbeds. Like, we literally had 2,500 boxes of cereal. They had to bring a truck to come get it out the garage,
Mm,
because it's like, what are we doing this for?
definitely. Yeah,
If you're not doing it to give back,
yeah.
how are we going to change the future for our kids if we don't start now? They got to
So
have an
true.
example.
So true. Yeah.
So
I
it's just
love
a
that.
whole bunch of things that I do for the city, the community, what's going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
People can come and talk to me all the time. I have grown men that'll call me and cry,
Mm,
and we pray together, because people are lost,
yeah. Yeah.
but it's also trying to be, I wouldn't say that maternal person for everybody, because I really ain't taking on nobody else's children and their spirits, so I ain't doing all that. But it is just acknowledging that, God, you put me in this position. You gave me a platform that most would have taken, oh my God, you can't tell me nothing, don't touch me,
Yep.
don't be around me, where I'm like, oh my God, how's your kid? And,
Yeah.
the environment is different when I'm in here.
So true. So
So-
true. Yeah. I love that. And as we start bringing it in for a landing, I have to just ask, like, we covered so much from your story to some of the projects you're working on to the philanthropy. And what is KP's vision, and what do you ultimately want to be remembered for when it's all said and done? So let's take you, you're still relatively young. So I'm sure that your life is going to be much bigger than just the nightlife scene and some of the other projects you're working on. What is the long-term vision for you, and what do you want your legacy to be?
So long-term vision, I obviously want my businesses to be successful, scale them, kind of work my way out of certain things and get, because they're going to do what they're going to do.
Definitely.
But ultimately, I definitely love like missionary work and giving back and being part of the church. And I mean, ideally, if I married a pastor, I'd be a first lady. I'd be really happy. I'm not gonna lie. But no, I really just want to be remembered as one, she always gave. If you sat at her table, you were gonna eat. Everybody that came to it didn't have anything. None of us did. We've all have a story. And if you're sitting with me, we're all gonna eat. But also opening people up to the realization that God is real.
Yeah.
And making sure that people understand that you're here for a purpose.
That's right.
What is it?
That's right.
And who you serving? Because what do you have to give somebody if all you're doing is taking, not contributing, not doing this? Like, what legacy is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And ultimately, my legacy, I just want to be remembered as like, you know what? She looked out.
Yeah.
She looked out. Even if she didn't have it, she still looked out. and she helped us, and she helped so many people get confident enough to have a business.
Definitely.
And I stood on my principle. I
Yeah.
think that one might go down in history, because that is one thing about me. I will stand on principle, and
That's
I
right.
stand on my respect.
Yeah.
Because I'm not someone that, people will say, oh, you got to earn respect. No, I don't. I'm not earning anything. I demand my respect,
Yeah.
especially in the field I'm in.
Yeah.
But I demand it because I give it.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I love the saying, you have to teach people how to treat you.
Right.
And hearing you speak about all of this, it reminds me of what my mentor would always say, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And the fact that you integrate the giving back component, it truly leaves you just filled beyond what any business venture could ever give you.
Right.
And that's so incredible. And if this were, God forbid, the very last interview you ever give, what would be the piece of advice or just words of wisdom you would want to give to the world? Some of the best stuff that comes to mind. I know this is super on the spot.
I would say, can I curse?
Oh, absolutely.
I would say, fuck what everybody else says. Do it anyways. Because it's yours.
Definitely.
Don't listen to anybody. They're not going to tell you the right thing. You have to believe so much in yourself, and you got to trust God. Like, any vision that you can move on without him is not big enough. I didn't see this. I didn't see it being this big. I didn't see the platform. I didn't see it. I'm just riding the wave. But I know that it ain't taking me to a bad place.
Yeah.
And people can say what they want, but when I got the rebels pulling up with truckloads of bikes and we're going to give back, look what I just did. You know what I mean? So it's that. Fuck what they say. Just do it.
I love it. I love it.
Do
Absolutely.
it anyways.
KP, this was amazing. And hopefully we can get you back for a part 2. There's so much you could have covered. And where can the people find you? What's some of the best websites or platforms, social media, all that stuff? So
I am KP on the mic on Instagram, or KP the Realtor. I'm good at DMs. So if you have any questions or anything, you can kind of hit me up in that way. But pretty much I just do my social media. Not on it all the time. I do put it on a timer because, I can't get my work done. So I'm averaging about 58 minutes a day, y'all.
Nice.
I'm getting up there. But I would just tell them that littampa.com, you can reach us there. But, we're more than a club. And I always hashtag that. We're more than a club. And that's what my vision was. Like, I didn't want to be this nightclub where it was like constant riffraff. Like, I wanted to be a place where people came and network. And
Definitely.
you changed your legacy.
I love it. I love it. And as we wrap up, I'm excited. We're about to open up this club, so it couldn't be a better time. And I'm looking forward to celebrating the rest of my birthday here with you all. So thank you so much. But KP, this was beautiful. A lot of gems shared here. Beautiful story. You're truly an iconic person, not only just in Tampa Bay, but in the world. And I look forward to just hearing about more of your journey as we go, and also just seeing what's in store for the future. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
And that is a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and look out for more episodes on the Journey podcast with your host, Josh Valentine. KP, once again, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Awesome. Take care. Thanks again for tuning into this episode. It would mean the world to me if you can follow, subscribe, share, or even leave a review. I look forward to putting out more content, and we'll see you on another episode.